What is real? Bigfoot isn't real, ghosts aren't real, aliens aren't real, blah blah blah. I've been told these things plenty of times. People talk a lot about what's real and what isn't, kind of like they know something they really don't. And a lot of them think that's as far as the conversation should go and I should just shut up about it. But of course I don't, and here's why. Because before you go telling me what isn't real, you'd better have a pretty firm grasp of what is. So do you? The problem is nobody really does. They often think they do, but they can't possibly. Science and physics is blurring the lines daily about what is actually real in this world and what isn't. They even theorize that we create our entire world inside our own minds. Like there's nothing really out there in the world, it's all really happening in here, in our minds. So should we ask a scientist what's real? Maybe, but if you ask more than one, you're likely to get more than one answer. Very different answers. So if a scientist starts insisting about what's real and what isn't, it's still safer to be a bit skeptical. No one can possibly know everything, not even the smartest person in the world, whoever that is. So before we decide what's really real, we have to decide what real actually is. We need a clear, concise definition that is unchangeable, not to mention agreeable to everyone. Seems easy enough, right? And you can bet I've looked this up, but you can look at this definition and see if you, like me, think it's a bit flawed, and maybe vague. Real, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is this: actually existing or happening, not imaginary. Not fake, false, or artificial. Important and deserving to be regarded or treated in a serious way. Now, a lot of people would look at this and think, seems reasonable to me. But hold on a minute. If this is a clear, concise definition, why does it raise so many questions? If you really look at this and think about it, it actually doesn't make much sense at all. The first entry is actually existing or happening, not imaginary. So if several people are watching the same event and seeing it a bit differently, who decides what's actually existing or happening? Who decides if it's real? Second entry, not fake, false, or artificial. How many times have you seen a Bigfoot or ghost video or picture? One person observing believes it to be real, while another will insist it's absolutely a fake. Who has the final say about this? Entry 3. Important and deserving to be regarded or treated in a serious way. Okay, fine, but again, who decides it needs to be treated in a serious way? For me, this definition does not settle any argument about what's real, and it might even be making things worse. So, without a good definition, how do we decide what's real? Is it what we can see? What we can touch? Like the chair I'm sitting in right now, is that real? Well, according to science, matter, like what my chair is made of, isn't really solid. It's just a collection of atoms, which are nothing more than little vortices of energy, spinning at the signature frequency required to make it seem solid. But it's really not solid in the way we think we understand solid to be. So if it's not really solid, is it real? What about time? Is time real? We sure treat it like it is, but scientists theorize that linear time as we know it doesn't really exist at all. Sure, the sun comes up and goes down every day like clockwork, but what does that really mean? Nothing. It just means that we measure time in our own terms, and we may just believe it exists because we measure it in such a way, but it doesn't prove it actually exists. Pain is an interesting proposition. Many people claim if you just have a feeling about something, it's not really a real, tangible thing. But how tangible is your pain when you feel it? Doesn't matter if it's physical or emotional pain, it's pretty real to you, right? But if someone else doesn't feel your pain, does that mean your pain isn't real? Are we humans real? Physics is also suggesting now that we, and not to mention our entire universe, may be nothing more than holograms projecting off another cosmos. This is way too scientific and complicated for me, but this isn't me saying it really. This is deep Stephen Hawking stuff. I could go into it a little deeper, but I'm not Stephen Hawking, thank heaven. But the more we follow science, especially physics and quantum theory, the more confusing reality gets, and everything we thought we knew about everything becomes sketchy. So keeping all these things in mind, how do we decide what's real and what isn't? Is anything real? Science is suggesting maybe not, at least not the way we've always believed we understood. So this leads me to the question, how can we say something is real or isn't real if we, the ones determining it to be real, are not actually real ourselves? Are we really qualified to say? And don't worry if you start to think Dorraine's lost her mind and is confusing the issue way too much. Because once you think that, that's actually when you're starting to understand. And that's because you thought you had a clear grasp of what's real, and now you realize you don't, and you never did. And it's a little unsettling to some. So unsettling, many people will reject it. But that's just human nature. So the next time someone tells you Bigfoot's not real, ghosts aren't real, aliens aren't real, just remember the chair you're sitting on may not be real. The universe and everything sitting in it, including us, might not be real. And everything we always thought was real might not be real. So if Bigfoot isn't real either, he's in good company. So what I'm really trying to say is this. To say Bigfoot isn't real, ghosts aren't real, they're truly ludicrous statements that need to be backed up with solid science. Just like just about everything else, just because we can't prove they're real doesn't mean they aren't. And I think you get the picture. The more you know about science and the universe, to believe something's not real because we can't lay our fingers on it seems more silly all the time. If we're not even sure we're real, how can we really say something else isn't? This is Dorraine Fisher with the Crypto Crew around the campfire.